there, fantasy owners. This is Sean, the Fantasy Ace with the Hat, here to bring you the latest tips, tricks, and tools you need to dominate your fantasy leagues and contests. This time we are talking about Darlington Raceway. Darlington Raceway is known as the track too tough to tame, meaning there's lots of possible contact with other drivers in the track itself, and it's easy to crash. So you should really make your picks carefully, but also base them on the practice speeds, because drivers that do well in practice do well at the actual race. And also remember this when making your picks: track position is everything. Without further ado, here are my 5 picks for Darlington Raceway. Track position really is everything when it comes to Darlington Raceway, and perhaps no better example of this is Brad Keselowski, our pole sitter for this week's race. He's also coming off of a top 10 and he led final practice. If you lead final practice and get the pole at the same time, you're bound to be a force to be reckoned with in the race. Expect him to do well, use him this week. Joe Gibbs Racing has consistently been one of the strongest teams this year in the NASCAR circuit. And I could continue to talk about Matt Kenseth or Kyle Busch, but how about Denny Hamlin? He won the Xfinity race and he's also starting 6th. And Darlington happens to be one of his very best tracks with an average finish of 6.9. That is pretty impressive. So you should definitely think about using him this week in at least one of your lineups. If there's one thing that a fantasy owner would like in his or her lineup, it's a driver that's been consistent because they continue to do well. And perhaps the best example of this is Austin Dillon. He starts 29th, which gives him possible room for good finishing upside. And he's coming off of 2 consecutive top 15 finishes, which for a driver his value, that's very good. If you need any other reason to start him, just know he finished 11th in his last Darlington start. Meaning, he can't go wrong with Austin this week. It almost feels like if you want to have the essential fantasy team in NASCAR, that you have to have at least one lower valued pick on your team. This week, that will be Chase Elliott. He starts 22nd, so he has possible room to have some good finishing upside, and he also has 3 top 20 finishes with an average finish of 22.5, and that's all of his starts throughout the year. For a driver of his value, that's who you want on your fantasy team, so Chase Elliott definitely is your guy this week. Back to drivers who may also fly under the radar, there's also Carl Edwards, who for his value has been very consistent, with 6 top 10 finishes over the last 7 races, and that 7th race was a top 15, I should mention. And he's also very good at Darlington, considering he has a 13.1 average finish, and he also starts 13th, which means he has a good chance of moving up through the field. So, Carl Edwards is definitely one of your picks. I recommend him this week. Well, that has been the weekly DFS NASCAR report starring me, Sean, the Fantasy Ace with the Hat. If you guys would like to chat more about NASCAR with me, be sure to follow me on Twitter at Shawman247. And until Richmond, this has been the report. Good luck!